Alright, ladies and gentlemen, MrCropper here, doing some of the old lefty philosophy nonsense, a critique of Ayn Rand's Objectivism by some moron who doesn't know anything. Holy crap, this is terrible. By some collectivist, some terrible, terrible collectivist who hates individuals and can't stand them and wants to have... Alright, so we get going. He's going to go on axioms here. Now there's something that I wanted to hit before that. The axioms are going to be... I mean, I've said so much about them lately, but we're going to do it for this video. We're going to do it proper, alright?
On the correct one, they will be successful. Philosophy helps us understand the reason why we believe the things we do and why we think what we do.
We did that.
It allows us to ask important questions that may seem silly at first, but after deliberation, you realize how much of your life is built upon that central concept.
It would be nice to have an example. But I guess he's saying some silly question, like a question of metaphysics or epistemology, like how do you know what you know, or if a tree falls in the forest, blah blah blah, and you give it some real thought, and it is a metaphysical or epistemological question. It's a deep question. So that must be what he has in mind, something like that, right?
That concept is wrong. What do you do?
Ooh, it'd be nice to have an example then. If that concept is wrong. I don't know if it's worth worrying too much about this. I just don't want to let him get away with anything here.
Liberation, you realize how much of your life is built upon that central concept. If that concept is wrong, what do you do?
Well, I guess you would possibly die or be hurt or injured or be damaged in some way. Yeah. Yeah, I think so. You would be hurt or damaged or injured or maybe even possibly die. Yeah. Like if you believed in the Heaven's Gate cult, you know, that could lead to your death. Or if you believed in Nazism, that could lead to your death. So, what happens if that belief is wrong? Well, what's your solution then? You want to be more careful about philosophy in case people might have wrong beliefs? Or I've even heard people who want to dispense with philosophy because beliefs can be wrong. That's a philosophy.
When it comes to Objectivism's epistemology, I have a problem with how it uses axioms.
Okay, so it was the earlier thing a build-up to the axiom thing. Is that what he was building up to? So he's saying that there's some idea that you build all your ideas on, but what if it's wrong? So you probably should have skepticism, a healthy skepticism about the idea or something. Is that what he's drilling at? And Ayn Rand bases her whole system on these ideas, these axioms, and what if they're wrong? How do you know they're right? How do you know you exist and have a mind?
An axiom is a proposition that defeats its opponent by the fact that they have to accept it and use it in the process of any attempt to deny it.
Anarchists take note. He actually gave the correct definition of axiom. Some anarchists are running around saying an axiom is a true thing.
That is true to an extent if we're going to be talking about something that isn't really established fact, like philosophy.
Oh, this is where it is. I thought so. This must have been the part of the video I did last night that got wiped out and erased because it got too long. Philosophy is not established fact. Ayn Rand can have her axioms and keep her axioms and play with her axioms, but it's not established fact. That's what he says here. The fact that you exist and the fact that you have a mind are not established facts. They're simply philosophy. Very strange. Oh, garbage. Am I going to lose it? No. It's just my computer screen's glowing white and I look crazy, so I put on a darker thing. Alright.
Yes, you do. Or
Yes,
if you're trying to break down how someone has truly come to their beliefs, then you must accept their reasoning in order to follow it. However, I do not have to accept that the axiom when they are trying to establish fact or truth.
You don't have to accept those axioms. So he's saying, I don't care what you say, I don't have to accept it. Maybe he's afraid that if he does accept the axioms, then he will be led down Ayn Rand's road of logic. Maybe that's what he's afraid of. Maybe he's a rationalist in that way, like, can't give her So how is he going to reject the axioms? He's going to reject what? That he exists? That he has a mind? He's rejecting the axioms.
If your axiom is built upon something demonstrably false, I will stop the conversation there until we've tackled that problem.
Okay, but the axioms are not built on anything demonstrably false. One of them is that you exist, and the other is that things exist, or that you have a mind, all right? So those are not demonstrably false. That's very strange for us to define axioms as something that is demonstrably true, and not only demonstrably true, but necessarily true to any proof against it, any attempt at a proof against it. It's demonstrably true. And he says, that's fine, as long as it's not demonstrably false. Because if it's demonstrably false, I'll reject it. Well, that's quite a straw man. Do you want to address Ayn Rand's axioms or not? You're saying, if they're false, I'll reject them. I'm not going to take false axioms. Well, what about true ones? I don't think you're going to take the true ones either, are you, buddy? No, afraid not.
I cannot go down your rabbit hole, nor give you much else beyond that axiom, nor give anything beyond that axiom any merit if it is built upon a false premise.
What if it's not? See, he's just saying that he doesn't know, because nobody can know anything. He's an eternal skeptic, so he rejects the axioms because he can't know about them. And then he just casts doubt on the whole idea of axioms at all, as being a rabbit hole you go down. So, he rejects the axioms that he has a mind and that things exist. Because it's a rabbit hole? Or because it's not proven fact, it's just philosophy?
For example, we're having a discussion about biology, and one's axiom is that the size of one's brain determines how intelligent one is.
That is not an axiom. That is just a scientific truth. You cannot switch your context from a philosophical axiom that is undeniable and has to be accepted in order to be refuted, or even attempted to refute. You can't change your context from that to an axiom in science which is simply a truth that holds. Okay, in science, like, you can't use the fact that the brain size increases with brain case volume or any of that. You can't use that to deduce or induce or give your base of philosophy. That is just a fact in biology. That is not a salient, relevant use of the word axiom. So we're just off on la-la land right now, I'm afraid. There are two different terms of axiom, two different terms for the word axiom, or more. But one of them is the philosophical axioms that can't be denied. And another one is scientific truths that hold within their field, like every building has a roof, you know?
From this conclusion, they feel women have smaller brains and therefore must be less intelligent. I cannot give the statement that women are less intelligent any credit if I know that the size of a human brain isn't necessarily predictive of intelligence. I cannot grant your axiom any validity if I want to have an honest discussion and talk about anything built upon that axiom. It would be fruitless. I could knock down all your beliefs in reverse and get you to question the axiom, though, or I could question the axiom outright.
Okay, there we go. It's going on about this brain case biology thing that's just so irrelevant to what an axiom is. Our axiom is that we exist and that things exist and we know that things exist. Alright, now, instead of just attacking all your beliefs down to the axiom and then attacking the axiom, he says he can just attack the axiom. Let's see what he's going to say.
Both approaches would be valid, but they do not require me to accept your axiom.
Wait. So he's just stamping his foot again and saying, I'm not going to accept your axiom. I was just waiting for him to attack the axiom, which he said he was going to do. He said, attack all your beliefs and then the axiom, or he could just attack the axiom. And then he says, but I'm not going to accept your axiom.
Is it possible to have good reasoning and logic built upon a faulty axiom?
What faulty axiom? You haven't even mentioned why it's false or why it might possibly be false or why you would have any reason to doubt the axioms. He's going on and on about the axioms being false. And there's a reason for this, ladies and gentlemen. It's because in his mind they're inherently false, because they make an objective claim about reality. And therefore, they are obviously outside the realm of what a sensible person would even think of considering. No sensible person would even think of considering the idea that there is a real reality, period. No reasonable person would think of that. So for him, these things aren't even real thoughts. They are floating platonic things to be dismissed and played with like toys. He doesn't take them seriously at all. Here he is now going on about this false axiom cannot allow you to use a false axiom. Go ahead and tell me about the falsity of the axiom. I'm waiting at the edge of my goddamn seat for you to say anything about how Ayn Rand's is this a critique of yes. I almost forgot what video this was. Is it a critique of Ayn Rand's objectivism or not? What about these axioms? Let's get on with it.
Of course. Religion is a prime example of this. One may believe in God and also evolution.
Nope. Done. Crusty, dude. Crusty garbage, dude. Are you critiquing Ayn Rand's objectivism or not? You didn't say anything about her axioms. You just went on and on about how you won't accept false axioms. Garbage. This is not a critique of Ayn Rand's objectivism. This is him laying his mental something bare. I don't know. He's laying something bare. Laying his mental hoi polloi.
Their axiom of God existing doesn't necessarily validate their claim that evolution
They do not have an axiom of God existing. See, he just has no frickin' clue what an axiom is. No clue at all. He has no concrete idea in his mind of what an axiom consists of. He must have read the dictionary definitions and is trying to get his head around it, but he doesn't have his head around it.
Happening. However, I would prefer that their axiom be built upon something empirical, but they at least have concluded that evolution is happening, and creationism doesn't fit the evidence we have. One of the biggest things that breaks down objectivism is that it's built upon the idea that we humans have free will.
Alright. If we don't have free will, why did you make this video, and why are you worried about it? Now, I'm gonna have to really give this a good hammering someday. But one of the things that you can tell you can tell you have free will is worry. You know, if you're worried about something, you choose what to do about it. You know, I just can't help people who can't introspect. If you can't introspect that you chose to worry enough about this subject to make the video, and that you could have chose to do something else besides make this video, if you can't introspect that far to know that you have free will, I just don't know what to say for people. I don't know if there's any argument you can make to dissuade someone from the idea that their mind is already made up.
If free will as a concept becomes obsolete, then its entire philosophy comes crashing down. As I have stated earlier...
That would be scary. That happened in Soviet Russia and Nazi Germany and Imperial Japan and Communist China. It's happened before.
I do not believe in free will, so therefore I cannot take objectivism seriously. Just as I can't...
Alright, he doesn't take it seriously, guys. He does not take it seriously.
Take many religions seriously because they're also based upon the concept of free will. I cannot discern what ideas of mine are actually mine and not just a mirror of the information my brain has received.
If you don't have free will, then you have no ideas at all. You're just an automaton. So don't worry about the subject and just go do whatever you enjoy. Play pool or something. Obviously you have free will, or you wouldn't be worrying about these subjects and trying to figure them out and trying to get your head around them. You must have free will.
This is kind of how I view will in a general sense. Sam Harris demonstrates this by his thought experiment on naming a city.
You want a little experiment? Think of a city anywhere in the world.
All right.
Any city you want.
Okay.
Now, of course, I could have primed.
Now, you can choose any city you want. I'm going to speed it up a bit, and we're going to listen to it a bit. But here's the thing. Whatever city you chose, you weren't free to choose cities that you didn't know about, right? And you also weren't free to choose cities that didn't occur to your mind. Go ahead and choose a city. Now then, what about Cairo? Was that the city you chose? Why didn't you choose that city? It was in your mind. You must have known about it. So, why did you choose the city you chose? Out of all the cities, he asked you to choose a city. Why did you choose the one you chose? So you must not have free will because you made a choice. That's all I can get out of it. So let's listen and see what they have to say. What do we got? What's going on?
I could have artfully placed cues in my speech in the last few minutes that would make me more likely to think of Las Vegas, for instance. So just to be on the safe side, don't pick Vegas. But pick a city, any city, and just pay attention to what this conscious process is like. Now, the first thing to notice about this is as free a decision as you are ever going to make in your life. Okay, you have all the cities in the world to choose from, and I'm just asking you to pick one. Now, several cities have probably occurred to you, and just focus on one. Everybody got a city? No, I'm sorry to say that you all picked the wrong city. Don't ask me how I know this, but I do. So I just want you to do this again, just so you can see what the process is like. Pick another city, can't be the first, and notice what that experience is like. Okay. Did you see any evidence for free will?
All right. Woo! Did you see any evidence for free will? There you were exercising free will. Did you see any evidence for it? So, I don't know what. For you to sit there and just choose randomly a city out of your memory bank. And then he says, okay. So there you were, and you chose. Now you've got a city in your head, and he says, all right. Now did you see any evidence for free will? So, you just exercised free will. You just experienced free will. He freely chose to say these things to you. You freely chose to come to the conference to listen to him. You're freely choosing to sit there and continue listening to him and not get up and go do something else. And he says, do you see any evidence for free will? Really? In an exercise of free will? Do you see any evidence for free will? Really? So I think Sam Harris cannot see evidence of free will. I don't think he can see it. Just like these experiments that the Kantians look at, and we see evidence that our senses are very potent, and our senses are connected to reality, and it's hard to fool them, right? But they see evidence that our senses are destroyed, our senses are impotent, our senses are useless, our senses are a hallucination, right? It's because of their philosophy. And I don't think Sam Harris is equipped with the correct philosophy. He can look at an instance of free will, of you choosing something, freely. And he'll say, where's the free will? How do you know you chose that? How do you know that you didn't just get led to that from whatever? How do you know that you chose free will? Even though you sat there and did it and exercised it and felt it and experienced it, he says, I'm not going to buy it. He didn't see any evidence for it.
Now, we better be able to find it here. I mean, if it's not here, it's not anywhere. So let's look for it. First, let's set aside all those cities whose names you don't know and therefore could not have picked. Okay, because you couldn't have picked one of those if your life depended on it. There's no freedom in that, obviously. Okay, and then there are many other cities whose names are quite well known to you, but which simply didn't occur to you today. For instance, perhaps Cairo didn't occur to you. You absolutely know that Cairo is a city, but for whatever reason, your Cairo circuits were not engaged. Okay, as a matter of neurophysiology, Cairo was not in the cards. So I want you to think about this. Were you free to choose that which did not occur to you to choose?
Were you free to choose that which did not occur to you to choose? Now, I say that it didn't occur to me because I had no reason for it to occur to me. So he's saying when I prod your mind with one little, just poke it and say, city, choose a city. because your mind doesn't go full blast and do something, I don't even know what he wants your mind to do, but because you choose, you only, when he doesn't prompt you, he didn't say, think of every single city that you know of, did he? He didn't say that. He said choose a city. And then because you didn't think of every single city that you know of, therefore you weren't free to choose those as one of your options. But he didn't prod you to. He didn't ask you to. So your mind reacts to reality. It's finite. It has a finite nature. It doesn't just react in an omnipotent, omniscient explosion. It reacts in a finite way to stimulus. He says choose a city. You go, New York, Los Angeles, too obvious. How about my hometown? It's nice. Oh no, this other Fillmore's good. Yeah, I'll do Fillmore. And you just look at a little map around your area or something like that. Something goes in your head. He didn't say choose a city, an obscure city, one you wouldn't normally think about. He didn't say choose a city from the entire inventory of all the cities and make sure you take account of every single city in your brain. But for some reason, because you didn't take account of every single city in your brain, therefore, what? Free will falls? You see, it's pretty weak stuff. And I think the reason he has this confusion is because he just has a starting philosophy, the way the Kantians start their philosophy, believing you can't ever know anything and reality's cut off from you, and then they see some little experiment and they say, see, the reality is destroyed. And I think he's the same way. He can exercise free will, he can talk about free will, he can show everybody in the audience how to exercise their free will, they can all do it together, and then he says, did you see any evidence for free will? Well, Immanuel Kant, denying the things that are right before our eyes? Yes, I actually did. I saw me responding to your request that I choose a city, and I freely chose a city from among the ones that I chose to think about. I was not prodded to think about every single city in the mental inventory. Because my mind has a particular nature, and it is finite. It is not an infinite plus. He wants it to be. He wants you to be able to choose. When he says choose a city, what he means is choice as a platonic floating ideal, right? Your choice shouldn't just be limited to whatever occurs to you at that moment or how you felt today or what's been in your mind for the last few weeks. That shouldn't dictate your choice. Your choice should be dictated by some abstract form or some sort of otherworldly or non-worldly thing or something, you see? Or free will. He wants free will to come in and do this. Is that what free will would look like? So if we did have free will, then it would have taken account of every single city in our entire brain? And then what? What if I still chose the city that I chose? Then would we have free will? No, still wouldn't have free will. He's not going to see evidence for free will.
And based on this, on the state of your brain a few moments ago, Cairo was not coming. Okay, where is the freedom in that?
Where is the freedom? See, you have no freedom to choose Cairo because it just didn't occur to you. See, you have to have everything come to your mind every time anybody says anything, or else you don't have free will. You're just being, you don't know what's going on in there. See? It's a weak case, Sam. Really weak. That's my real question to him then. What would free will look like, Sam? What would it look like?
Of course, if you did think of Cairo, you should consider yourself a genius. Now, so you probably thought of several cities, and then let's say you thought of Paris and New York and Tokyo. And then you thought, I love Paris. I'm going to go with Paris. And the last minute you thought, no, Tokyo, I'll go with Tokyo. And now this is the sort of decision that motivates the idea of free will. This is, you've got two or more choices, and you're picking between them, and it's just you and your thoughts. There's no coercion from the external world. You are doing it. Yeah.
See, he thinks that's the delusion of free will. You've been told to choose a city, and you got down to 2 or 3, and then you chose 2, and then you said, I'm going to go with this one. And he said, no, wait, I'm going to go with that one. He says he still can't find free will in there. It still could just be your brain, and you're just a zombie sitting there being bounced around by these thoughts, just watching where they go and following. You have no idea what's going on. You're just boom, boom, boom. You're just going through life, just being bounced around. See? It's a terrible, evil philosophy. It's a terrible way to view the world, and there's no evidence for it. He sits here and watches us all do an act of free will and then says there's no evidence for free will. It's a terrible philosophy, and it's junk.
But when you look closely, I think you'll find that you are in no position to know why you picked what you picked.
Why did I pick what I pick? See? He wants there to be some other explanation outside of you. Or bigger than you, or some... What? What would it be, Sam? What did he just say? Because I just...
But when you look closely... I think you'll find that you are in no position to know why you picked what you picked.
There isn't a why, Sam. There's no why. I picked. It is a metaphysical fact. There's no cause. We have a term for it. When I cause something myself and nobody else caused it and nothing else caused it, we have a term for that. It's called free will, Sam. When I chose a city, and I wasn't even instructing what city, what age, what continent, I chose a city. When I did that, I did it through free will. Now, he can't find why that happened. And he says, when you look into your mind and say, why did I choose Vegas instead of Tokyo? Why did I choose Paris instead of Vegas? Why? He says, you can't find a why. Well, Sam, did it ever occur to you that free will is the why? That's why I chose it, because I have free will. What does he think he's going to find in there when he looks? A gremlin? A little principle that does the operation? What is it that he thinks he's going to find? A form, a platonic form floating in there that makes the operation happen. Right? It can't just happen, though. It couldn't just be free will that does it. Right? He sees free will happen, and he says, now show me the evidence that was not caused. Show me what caused that. Show me why that happened. There is no why, Sam. Free will is a metaphysical category. It's a metaphysical fact. Free will. Human action.
In this case, why you chose Tokyo over Paris. So you might have some additional stories to tell about it. You might think, well, I had Japanese food last night, and so I remembered it.
He just goes on and on about this, and I think we've defeated him.
There's no evidence for free will. But actually, our experience in life is compatible with the truth of determinism.
My ability to decide on a city cannot be boiled down to anything I consciously decided. Also, I'm limited to the cities that I know of, which means I did not have the ability to choose any city I had no knowledge of. I was limited in my choices by my own ignorance.
Alright, so you're limited in your choices by your own ignorance. How does that defeat free will? How does that bring free will into question?
I have no will to choose what is not known to me, even if it does exist.
Why would that defeat free will? You still have free will, even if you can't choose things you don't know about.
Still limited in my use of whatever will I have. Even if I had...
Oh, he wants it to be called limited will, because it's not free. Oh, he takes free to mean a rational, floating, platonic version of free. Free will would mean that you can... You're free! Your will is free! Right? He has no idea what that means. Free will means you can decide. That's all it means. It doesn't mean you can decide on anything. It doesn't mean you have an omnipotent mind. It doesn't mean that you know everything. It just means that when you're confronted with a decision, it's your choice what you do. That's all it means. It's not a mind-blowing, platonic, metaphysical realm. It's inside your mind. It's inside your head. Your little pea-brained, deterministic head. You choose. You have free will. Ay, ay, ay.
I had the ability to know every city in the world, my decision would be influenced by my experience in my past that I have no control over. Say, for instance, I chose Big Arm, Montana. This city is completely obscure and not widely known. Why would I choose it? Because it sounded funny. Well, in that case, my decision wasn't my own per se. It was coerced by how much I found it funny.
So, when you do make a decision, and you make it by something, you say, well, I'm going to choose Paris because I went there last summer, so I'm going to think of Paris. You were coerced. Coerced. Why would you use that word there? You're going to have to define how it's used there now. Why would you use that word there? You were coerced by your state of knowledge or your experiences. You weren't free. See? You don't have free will because your mind has a nature, therefore you have no free will. This is Immanuel Kant's argument. Your mind exists in a certain way and by a certain nature, therefore it is destroyed.
In return, made me put more attention on it. Well, what if you chose it because you knew no one would have ever had thought about it? Still, your decision is being influenced by trying to impress others. The goal is coercing your thoughts towards that city. What if you picked it because you grew up and you were...
The goal is coercing your thoughts toward that city. Coercion. What is coercion? Your poor mind is not free at all. It's being coerced. It's coercing itself. What is coercion?
Familiar with it. Your familiarity drove your decision to choose that city, not necessarily you. Basically view all people as robots.
Oh, so your familiarity drove you. The fact you're familiar with the city is what made you choose it. You didn't choose it. Your familiarity chose it. Your familiarity drove you to it. Your familiarity with the city is a separate thing from you, not connected to you in any way. You didn't choose it. It's the fact that you're familiar with the city that made you choose it, which isn't a fact of you. It's divorced from you.
Being constantly loaded into their programs. All their thoughts derive from the information that is put in, and this results in the action outputs. A robot cannot act in a manner that deals with information they do not have in their programming, or the ability to receive information if they do not have a complete array of senses to collect the data.
Alright, a robot can't deal with shit it doesn't know. So the robot's not free? We can't deal with shit we don't know. We're limited. Therefore, we're destroyed.
Then, a program must exist for the robot to interpret the data being collected. If you were to ask a robot to tell you how they feel today and they responded with great, would you think it had free will? Why do we do the same when it comes to humans? If a robot is programmed to only do a certain task and it never does anything else...
If you saw a machine that couldn't think for itself, give you an answer to a question, would you think that it could think for itself? Well, why do you think that when you see a human think for themselves? Great analogy. Very, very good analogy.
Understand programming is determining its behavior. Why do we not also apply the same thought to human beings? Robots have the ability to make choices, but those choices are limited by its programming, or in other terms, their knowledge. Does this mean...
Robots have the ability to make choices? They do? They do? I need an example of that. It's limited by their knowledge. What do you mean? A robot that's driving down the street can make a choice? I don't know. I don't know about that. I don't think they can. I think they just run their program. I don't think robots can make a choice. He says it's limited by their knowledge, but I would need an example of a robot making a choice. Now, they can generate random numbers, but I don't think that's the same. No, I don't think robots can make choices. I don't think they can.
Have the ability to make choices, but those choices are limited by its programming, or in other terms, their knowledge.
So it can make choices, but its programming limits what choices it can make? I think making choices is an act of free will. I don't think any computer can make choices. I don't know what the heck he's talking about. What does he mean? What choice would a computer make? What choice would a computer make? Give me one example. I'm begging you now. Lefty philosophy, I'm begging you. One example of a choice a computer makes. What would it be? Not even in chess. They make a choice of where to move, but that's determined by a program. That's not like if that would qualify as a choice, Big Blue beating Kasparov in a chess match, the computer was making choices, but it wasn't. It wasn't. It was just following a program, and its choice was the best move for the goal of winning the game. So it wasn't making choices. It was just following a program. I can't find a computer making a choice. I can only find them running programs. I see a Tesla on auto drive running its program, and it just does what its program tells it to do. It can't make any choices. And it runs into the back of a fire engine that's parked on the freeway. I don't see choices anywhere. I'm looking in all the robots, and I don't see any choices. Now I'm looking in AI. I'm looking in Google's DeepMind right now. Google has DeepMind, and it lets it dream, and the DeepMind dreams and makes up these garbagey pictures. And I think it's just following its program. I cannot find a choice. Is there a choice somewhere? Do computers make choices? Alright, that's taken a while here. We're near the end here. This is goddamn epic. This is like going to be a 2.5 hour show. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. If you're not patronizing me already, please do so. And thank you for joining me for this. And we will continue if we can choose to do so.